vast ocean of love and relationships, there are certain lines we must never cross. Today, we're setting sail on a journey, exploring the 4 things you should never, under any circumstance, beg a woman for. We'll sprinkle a bit of humor here and there to keep things light because, let's face it, love can sometimes feel like a battlefield. But don't worry, we're in this together, navigating the sometimes choppy, sometimes calm waters of romance. So buckle up as we navigate these tricky waters together. Our first point of discussion, love. Yes, that sweet, intoxicating feeling that makes the world go round. But what happens when love starts to feel less like a romantic dance and more like a desperate plea? When the waltz turns into a solo jig and you find yourself begging for love, it's time to take a step back and reassess. You see, begging for love is like trying to hold water in a sieve. It's a futile exercise, and it leaves you feeling empty and drained. Love, my dear friends, cannot be forced, bought, or begged. It's like a wild bird. You can't cage it, you can't control it. It comes and goes as it pleases. Now, before you start thinking that I'm some old cynic who's given up on love, let me assure you, I'm anything but. I believe in love, in its power to heal, to inspire, to transform. But I also believe that love requires respect. Respect for oneself, and respect for the other person. When you beg for love, you're essentially saying that you're not worthy of love. You're placing the other person on a pedestal and reducing yourself to a mere spectator. But here's the thing, love isn't a spectator sport. It's a dance where both partners need to participate equally. And if you're still not convinced, let me bring in the big guns. According to renowned psychologist Dr. John Gottman, begging for love can lead to a power imbalance in the relationship, which can cause resentment and dissatisfaction in the long run. So, next time you find yourself begging for love, remember this. Love is not a commodity to be traded. It's not a favor to be asked. It's a gift to be shared, a journey to be embarked upon together. So, put on your dancing shoes and find a partner who's willing to dance with you, not someone who needs to be begged to join the dance. And of course, let's not forget our healthy dose of humor. As the great Oscar Wilde once said, never love anyone who treats you like you're ordinary, because you're not ordinary, you're extraordinary. Remember, love is a two-way street, not a charity event. Moving on to our next point, respect, a foundation stone for any relationship. Now, we're not talking about the kind of respect you give to a traffic cop when you're trying to dodge a speeding ticket. Nope, we're talking about the deep, meaningful respect that forms the bedrock of any romantic relationship. So, what happens when we find ourselves begging for this respect? Well, let's put it this way. It's a bit like trying to squeeze water from a stone. It doesn't work, and you'll only end up hurting your hand, or in this case, your self-esteem. You see, respect is something that should be freely given, not begged for. When we beg for respect, we're essentially saying that we're not worthy of it on our own merits. And that's just not true. Each and every one of us is deserving of respect, simply by virtue of being a human being. Now let's bring in the experts, shall we? According to esteemed relationship psychologist Dr. John Gottman, respect is a key predictor of relationship success. He states that couples who show respect for each other are more likely to stay together in the long run. But here's the kicker. Respect has to be genuine. It can't be forced or begged for. So, begging for respect is a bit like trying to get a cat to fetch. It's just not going to happen. And even if it does, it's probably not going to be a very enthusiastic fetch. The same goes for respect. If you have to beg for it, it's probably not worth having. So, what's the solution? Well, it's simple. Be someone who commands respect, not someone who begs for it. Show respect to others, and it's likely to be returned. And remember, you're worth it. Let's wrap this up with a little food for thought. Imagine you're at a fancy restaurant. The waiter brings you a dish you didn't order. You wouldn't beg for the right order, would you? You'd expect it. The same goes for respect in a relationship, because respect earned is far more valuable than respect begged for. Time, the one thing we all wish we had more of, especially when it comes to our loved ones. Ah, time, that elusive, fleeting thing we never seem to have enough of. It's like that last piece of cake at a party. Everyone wants it, but there's simply not enough to go around. Now let's talk about relationships and time, shall we? You see, in the grand theater of love, time plays a leading role. It's the currency we trade in, the commodity we crave. But here's the kicker. Begging for time is like trying to fill a leaky bucket. It's a futile exercise that can lead to resentment and strain in a relationship. Think about it. When you're begging for time, you're essentially saying, I'm not a priority. It's like standing in line at the grocery store waiting for your turn, only to realize that everyone else has been served first. It's not a great feeling, right? Experts in the field of relationships and psychology have found that begging for time can create an imbalance in the relationship dynamic. It can make the person being begged feel overwhelmed and pressured, while the one doing the begging feels neglected and unimportant. It's a lose-lose situation, folks. But hey, don't take my word for it. Let's hear from Dr. Love, a renowned relationship expert. He says, when you beg for time, it's as if you're begging for validation. It's an indication that you're not feeling valued or prioritized in the relationship. Well, that's quite an eye-opener, isn't it? Now here's a little nugget of wisdom for you. Instead of begging for time, ask for it. There's a difference, you know. Asking is respectful, begging is desperate. And remember, a relationship is a two-way street. It's about give and take, not beg and take. So next time you find yourself on the verge of begging for time, stop, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this really what I want? And remember this, after all, if she wants to be with you, she'll make the time. Our final point for today, validation. A tricky one, wouldn't you agree? Imagine this. You're walking down the street, wearing your favorite outfit. You feel good, you look good, but then you start wondering, does she think I look good? Does he like my outfit? Suddenly, you're not so sure anymore. You've just fallen into the validation trap, my friends. The need for validation is a common human trait. We all like to feel accepted and appreciated. But when you start begging for validation, especially in a relationship, it can become a sign of insecurity. It's like you're saying, I can't trust my own judgment. I need you to tell me I'm okay. According to relationship experts, constantly seeking validation can take a toll on your relationship. It can make your partner feel pressured to constantly reassure you, which can be exhausting. It's like being a comedian who needs the audience to laugh after every joke. It's not only tiring, but it also takes the fun out of the performance. But here's the kicker. Begging for validation doesn't just affect your relationship, it affects you. Studies show that people who constantly seek validation have lower self-esteem and are more likely to experience anxiety and depression. It's like being on a roller coaster, where your self-worth goes up and down based on what others think of you. So, let me share a little anecdote with you. There was a man who always asked his wife if he was good enough for her. One day she turned to him and said, "Why are you asking me? Shouldn't you be the one who knows that?" That, my friends, is a mic drop moment. Remember, it's nice to be complimented and appreciated by your partner, but your self-worth should never depend on someone else's opinion. You are not a question that needs to be answered. You are a statement that stands on its own. So the next time you find yourself begging for validation, take a step back. Ask yourself, why do I need someone else to confirm what I already know? Because the only validation you need is from yourself. So there you have it, the 4 things you should never beg a woman for: love, respect, time, and validation. In this wild roller coaster of love and relationships, we've navigated through the twists and turns and hopefully learned something along the way. Let's take a quick trip down memory lane. Remember, begging for love is like trying to catch a butterfly with a net. It's not only tricky, but it also ruins the beauty of the chase. And let's not forget about respect. Just as you wouldn't beg for a high five from a cat, don't beg for respect. It should be given freely and naturally. Time, that slippery, elusive creature, is something we all wish we had more of. But begging for it? No, my friends, that's like trying to hold water in a sieve. And lastly, validation, that sweet, sweet validation. Begging for it is as productive as trying to convince a kangaroo to hop backwards. It's just not going to happen. All these points underline an important truth about relationships. They're not about begging or pleading, but about mutual understanding, respect, and love. A healthy relationship is like a dance. It's not about one person leading and the other following, but about moving together in harmony. Because in the grand scheme of things, a relationship is about partnership, not pleading. Lastly, What are your thoughts on this topic? Have you ever experienced begging in a relationship? Share your experiences and insights in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more relationship advice and tips. Thanks for watching.